So here we have our super long range infrared PTZ camera. It's a proper positioning system, and this video is to show a prospective customer how to use the camera just in simple terms to get you started. It's not supposed to be an in-depth review of any kind, but when you're taking this camera out of the box, just be careful. It has a wiper in the front. Usually when we get these, there's tape on the wiper, but we remove it because everybody forgets to remove it, and then when they turn it on, it actually breaks the wiper mechanism. So when you're taking the camera out of the box, make sure you don't put your hands on the wiper. You can actually pull on it and break the mechanism. There is a small, there's a light plastic film around the infrareds. Make sure you remove that too, so you don't have any blurry infrared coming out of it. Now, when the camera's powered off, it's kind of free to move around. Be very careful holding it. When you do hold it, I suggest holding it with the body of the camera, not the top. Okay, that will that could put some unneeded tension on the camera. Now, right now it's free to move up and down. When you power the camera, it actually boots up and becomes more rigid. And to power the camera, I'm just going to give you an overview of the pigtail coming out of the camera. It's right here. There are a lot of connections on it. You don't need to use any of these connections except for power. We already terminate the camera with a female DC power terminal on it. And then there is an RJ45 connection. There is a BNC for some people who are using a tester, or you can actually even use this as an analog camera with RS485 if you need it, but you're just going to be using two connections, regular RJ45, this is not PoE, and then you've got a 12-volt DC connection. We've already terminated it. The red connection, the red wire is positive, the black is negative. Just make sure when if you're putting this outside, even inside of a junction box or when you store it, you put some electrical tape around it so water does not accumulate in the middle between these two wires, because it will short out the camera and damage it, or the power supply. Here's the power supply on the camera. The rating on the power supply, let me just kind of make sure. It's 36 volts DC and 2.33 amps. Okay, and this is not 110, so please make sure you don't put in any 110 or even AC current on this. Also, this one's terminated as well, and it goes back into a 110 connection into your outlet. Make sure you're using a properly surge protected outlet, otherwise that power supply is going to keep burning out on you. Now, the power of the camera, simply once you have the power supply connected to 110, you bridge the gap in between these two DC connections. Since I'm filming with one hand, it might be a little challenging, so just pardon me for that. All right. Now, this camera, when it boots up, keep in mind it's going to do a self-test. And it's going to move around, so make sure you give it plenty of space to move around and it doesn't knock over anything and doesn't get scratched by anything. The boot up procedure can range from about a minute or, 2 to 3 minutes. So this is the boot up self-test procedure. This tells you camera is working. Now it's even doing a test on the wiper right there. This thing has a built-in heater fan inside of it. That's the noise coming from the fan inside. There are a couple of fans even inside this body. Please do not open the camera. It will void the warranty. And here is a little slot for micro SD. Be very careful trying to put a micro SD slot in there. Lots of times customers mess it up and actually break the slot. If you do that, there's nothing we can do to fix it. Please try not to put a micro SD, and if you are wanting to, you have to check back with us how to do that, because you have to put it the right way so you don't break the clip in it. These red lights are the infrared LEDs on the camera. They provide a phenomenal range. So now I'm going to go to a computer and show you how to control the camera. So I am actually in Microsoft Edge on Windows. This particular camera only works with Internet Explorer, so you have to use either Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge with Internet Compatibility mode turned on. You can actually watch another video we have on how to enable IE compatibility mode in Edge. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to show you how to go into the camera. This is the IP address of the camera by default. I'm going to type that in. brings me up a web login. Now, in order for you to be able to see that camera, you have to configure the IP address of your camera properly for your network. This is the IP address that works on my network. This is my scheme of 192.168.1. I'm on a Wi-Fi laptop here. I have my IP address entered into my bar, and this is the screen I get. I'm going to type in my username, which is admin, and the password is supplied to you with the camera on top of the camera box. Or you can always email us and ask us for it if you forgot what it is. We initialize the cameras with an email address on purpose because people seem to mistype their email addresses for password recovery, and then you get locked out of the camera and it's very hard to reset it. You log into the camera, and here the camera is actually pointed up to the ceiling. I'll move this down. On the right hand side, you'll notice that there's a Ptz Control. So just for this brief overview, I'll show you how this Ptz Control works. There's zoom. So the camera has a day and night switching mode that's automatic, and it will automatically do that. To give you a perspective of what the zoom capability of this camera is, this is no zoom and this is full zoom. Depending on the contrast between objects that you're looking at, you have to give it a few seconds to let it focus in. Now keep in mind, if you're using this to point at the sky, which you shouldn't, you're not going to be able to focus on birds in the sky. That's not what the camera is made for. You need to have a contrast between surfaces or objects for the camera's automatic focus mechanism to be able to differentiate those objects and properly focus in. So make sure you have that. Now the camera does have a lot of infrared as well. I'm turning off the lights in our warehouse here just to show you. So the exit sign, unfortunately, I can't do anything about it. I can't turn it off. But what's going to happen is I completely turned off the lights. The camera, after a few seconds, will switch to black and white mode. And it has a phenomenal amount of infrared on it for nighttime viewing and surveillance. And you can see here that I can see that that exit sign is about 90 feet away from where the camera is positioned. And you can see it as bright as day. Now, a lot of customers have questions about, oh, the infrared is not strong enough for something. And I'm just quickly going to touch upon what Smart IR is on this camera, or in any security camera we sell. So what it does is, when you have a lot of infrared being emitted from a camera and you have an object such as this bag of stuffing that we have, void fill, what's happening is it's creating an area of oversaturation in the picture, or overexposure. And the cameras are programmed to reduce that overexposure by reducing the intensity of the infrared LEDs so that object doesn't appear completely white. Now, this is a white object. If this was a person and their face was appearing like that, it would be no good to you if they come close to the camera and you can't make out and identify their face for prosecution if you needed to. Obviously, this is just a bag of white peanuts. That's why it appears so white. For a person standing there, it would be more like this cardboard box. It wouldn't appear overexposed. But if you notice at the distance in the back, that exit sign or that wall in the back is no longer appearing very clear to you. That's because the infrared intensity has been reduced to reduce the overexposure in the picture. And this is called Smart IR. There's nothing wrong with the camera. Make sure wherever you're pointing the camera, in your view, whenever you want to look at views of interest, you do not have trees, fences, buildings, or other things in the middle, because what will happen is their borders or themselves in totality will cause overexposure and cause the camera to stop emitting its full IR intensity to reduce overexposure. You can manually turn off Smart IR if you wanted to, but we don't recommend doing that because then it creates other issues. On the right hand side here, of course, like I've been doing, is controlling the camera. This is left, this is right. I'll turn the lights back on, up, and down. Now, when you zoom into the camera, what happens is the distance the camera travels when you turn it, or when you do a pan and tilt, reduces because it's trying to allow you to have small movements to be able to pick up detail. Now, if you zoom out and then you try to do that again, you'll see the movements are faster and the camera travels more. It's faster. Okay, that's pretty much it. And then here, the other thing that's left to show you is the wiper. We have a wiper function in this camera. You click on here. You can do once to clean the lens. please note that there isn't any liquid emission or anything like that. You can't put windshield washer. If you wanted to do that, you could certainly make your own mechanism if you wanted to do that. Did it again. Now there's also a heater option if you needed to, and there's some other features here that you can play around with. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to focus on that in this video, but you can certainly go through that on your own time. Thanks for watching.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.